If you've been gaming on mobile since the early 2010s, you probably remember one of the absolute titans of that era, Doodle Jump. It was everywhere, from the iPhone 3GS to old Android devices, dominating App Store charts with its ridiculously simple but endlessly addictive gameplay. You tilted your phone, guided that little green four-legged creature with a long snout upward across platforms, avoided monsters, grabbed jetpacks, and chased high scores. It was one of those titles that defined what mobile gaming even was back then. Fast forward more than a decade, and Lima Sky, the small but dedicated team behind it, decided it was time to bring back the magic in a modernized way, with Doodle Jump. And the interesting part is how it manages to carry the charm of the original while updating it just enough for today's standards. The core gameplay is instantly recognizable. You're still guiding the little doodler upward in that endless climb, bouncing from platform to platform, constantly reacting to the layout that scrolls faster than your brain can sometimes keep up with. The tilt controls remain, and for many players, that alone will bring back a flood of nostalgia. But Lima Sky didn't just re-release the old game. They've layered in new worlds, new visual styles, and fresh mechanics that make it feel like more than just a reskin. Each world introduces new platform types, enemy designs, and obstacles that force you to adapt. For instance, one world might have icy platforms that send you sliding, while another has moving platforms that require sharper timing. It creates a sense of progression without abandoning the purity of the original hook. One thing that stands out right away is the visual update. The art style keeps that notebook doodle aesthetic, with sketchy lines and playful hand-drawn elements, but it looks sharper, cleaner, and more polished than ever. There's more variety, too. Each themed world has its own background, color palette, and set of hazards. It still feels quirky and childlike, but there's an added layer of personality. The UI is kept minimal, which is smart for a game that lives or dies on your ability to focus on fast reactions. The character designs, from the doodler itself to the various enemies, have that same whimsical, almost scribbled charm, but they've been given just enough modernization that it doesn't feel outdated. Sound design is similarly simple but effective. The boings and pops as you bounce upward are satisfying, light, and crisp, adding to the game's addictive loop. There are playful little sound effects tied to power-ups like springs or propeller, hats, and each one is distinct enough to help your brain quickly register what's happening. The soundtrack itself is understated, almost more atmospheric than melodic. But it works, letting the focus stay on the hypnotic upward climb. It's not a game where the music will stick in your head, but it complements the experience without distracting you. Controls are always the make or break point for tilt-based games, and Doodle Jump manages to feel surprisingly smooth in an era where many players aren't used to accelerometer-driven input anymore. Tilting feels responsive, and there's just enough calibration baked in that it doesn't become a frustrating mess. Still, if you're someone who doesn't enjoy tilt controls in general, this won't change your mind. It's tied deeply to the game's DNA. There's something almost retro about tilting your phone in 2025, when touch-based or swipe mechanics have become the norm. But in this case, it feels like a conscious design choice to preserve authenticity. In terms of progression, this sequel adds a subtle sense of discovery. Instead of just chasing a high score endlessly, you unlock new themed worlds as you go, each with its own twists. That makes it more digestible in short sessions, but also encourages you to push just a little further to see what's next. There's no heavy-handed narrative here. Doodle Jump never needed one. But this world structure gives it a light feeling of advancement, something the original mostly lacked. It's like turning a pure arcade game into something closer to a mobile platformer while still keeping it infinite in nature. Performance is smooth, which is crucial. The game runs well even on lower-end devices, with crisp animations and no noticeable lag. Lima Sky seems to understand that this type of game absolutely cannot have stutters or frame drops. It would kill the precision needed to land on platforms. On modern hardware, it's buttery smooth, and that's exactly how it should be. When it comes to monetization, the approach is refreshingly light compared to many modern mobile games. Doodle Jump uses ads sparingly, usually to give you an optional revive or extra reward, but it's nowhere near as aggressive as the free-to-play grind machines clogging the market. There are also small cosmetic unlocks, but they're not intrusive. It's clear the developers wanted to keep this one accessible and enjoyable without drowning it in microtransaction clutter, which honestly helps it stand out in today's mobile landscape. Replayability is obviously high, just like in the original. The loop is simple, but that's exactly what makes it endlessly engaging. It's the kind of game you can open for 2 minutes while waiting in line, or lose yourself in for half an hour chasing your best score. The world progression system gives it just enough freshness to keep players coming back, while leaderboards let you compete with friends and strangers globally. It's easy to imagine this one carving out a little niche community of score chasers, much like the original did back in the day. As for community reception, it's been largely positive. Fans of the original appreciate the faithful update, while newer players who may have never touched Doodle Jump before get to experience what made it such a phenomenon. Some criticism exists, mostly from people who wish there were alternative control schemes besides tilting, but the general consensus is that this is a worthy sequel that doesn't overcomplicate what was already a perfectly balanced arcade formula. It's also worth talking about the developer, Lima Sky. They're not a massive studio, but they're one of the early pioneers of mobile gaming, and the fact that they're still supporting and evolving their iconic creation is impressive. They could have easily let Doodle Jump remain a relic of the past, but instead, they've taken the time to polish it up for a new generation, keeping it alive while the mobile market has shifted drastically toward live service grindfests and gacha monetization. Comparing Doodle Jump to its contemporaries is fascinating. In a world of hyper-complex mobile games with 3D graphics, battle passes, and daily login systems, it feels almost refreshing to play something so pure. It's a reminder that simplicity and addictive design can outlast trends. At the same time, by adding the themed worlds and extra mechanics, it doesn't feel like a lazy nostalgia cash-in. It respects the original, respects its players' time, and carves out a space for itself even in 2025. In the end, Doodle Jump succeeds by knowing exactly what it is and who it's for. It's a polished, faithful revival of a mobile classic, updated with just enough modern touches to feel fresh without losing its soul. If you love the original, this is an easy recommendation. You'll slip right back into that tilt-driven rhythm like no time has passed. If you've never tried Doodle Jump before, this is the perfect entry point. A living piece of mobile gaming history that still manages to be ridiculously fun. It's proof that sometimes the simplest games really are the most enduring.